there's a tornado coming towards me. I am just terrified, bracing myself for a tornado to fully hit and take out my entire apartment. I was having these near-death thoughts, and what was coming forward was like, God, I wish I would have... A tornado hit last Wednesday. I had known that there was a storm coming. Like, the winds were insane. You could see it in the skies. You could feel it in the air. And, I got off work. I ran to Chipotle. I'm like trying to expedite the things happening in my night because I'm like, okay, I need to shower much earlier. I have a podcast episode that I need to finish and get uploaded to Spotify, to YouTube. And so I'm going throughout my night, but I'm trying to expedite the routine of it all because I'm like, I know that the storm is coming. And, I remember like getting ready to get in the shower and I get this feeling of like, there's going to be a tornado tonight. Like, I just feel like there's going to be a tornado that like hits. And it was such a calm voice in my head saying that. And, it was really my intuition speaking of just knowing that a tornado was going to come. So I expedite the routine. I'm sitting on my couch. I'm like starting to upload my episode 10 of the podcast. And suddenly, like, I hear fire truck sirens, my phone's going off, the big blaring sound with the National Weather Service, like urgent, take shelter now message. I'm also hearing the tornado sirens outside. I'm also getting a text message from my mom saying there's a tornado coming towards you, go to your safe spot. This was so overwhelming. Like, I can't even begin to tell you, like, it was just a barrage of all the sirens, all the warnings, all the take shelter now, all the like final messages of like, get somewhere safe. And so, I live in an apartment and I'm like, I'm pretty sure my safe spot is my closet. Like, I wasn't quite sure, but I'm like, the closet is the most interior room in my apartment. So I go to my closet, I like pull all the pillows and blankets. I'm like taking my laptop, I'm taking my external hard drive that has like all of my podcast episodes on it, which is funny because it's like that's going to survive like a flood or anything like that. So I like gather all the things. I go into my closet, I sit down, I lay down in the closet. And, I'm texting with my mom and she's like watching the news. She like, my parents weren't necessarily on the path, but like the tornado was coming towards me. There's coming from the south. My parents live further north. I'm like, at that point, I'm between my parents' house and the tornado. Like I'm right in the middle of it. And so I'm sitting there in the closet. All I know is that there's a tornado coming towards me. I know that there's about 10 to 15 minutes until the tornado warning is up, meaning the tornado will be out of the area. And I am just terrified. It sent me into just like such a, I was shaking, I was crying, I was so scared. And, I was mentally preparing in those moments of just like, I need to prepare myself to have every single thing stripped away from me. Every single material item, every single thing that I have. I was preparing for everything to be taken from me. And in that span of 10 to 15 minutes, I'm like texting with my mom, like back and forth. I'm like, my phone is fully charged. She's like, me too. And I'm just like, I'm shaking. Anytime she's texting me, I'm making sure I text immediately back. And I'm just like, I'm so scared. And, as this fear was coursing through my veins, I started having these like near death thoughts of just like, I'm going to be so honest because this span of 10 to 15 minutes of I know a tornado is coming towards me. I'm terrified. I can hear, even though I'm in the closet, I can hear the wind blowing like 80 plus miles per hour. I can hear the tornado sirens. They're not stopping. They continue to go. And I'm just like having these thoughts. And it was this span of 10 to 15 minutes that was a moment of just like my entire truth being revealed. It was like everything that is so important to me in this particular phase in my life. And when I say important to me, it's like on a soul level. I am deeply like, this is the truth of me as a soul in this world. Like in the span of 10 to 15 minutes, as I was, bracing myself for a tornado to fully hit and take out my entire apartment, I was having these near death thoughts. And what was coming forward was like, God, I wish I would have put myself out there more. I was just getting started with my podcast. Like I still haven't done everything that I want to do with it. And I just wish I had more time. Like I just want to pour more into that. I'm having this conversation with myself. And the next question that came up was like, was this job worth it? Was being in this day job worth it? This job wasn't worth it. I've been spending so much time in this job when really like I'm not following, like I didn't follow the thing that my soul was really like calling for. And I didn't like fully live out my purpose. And I wasn't living my daily life in a way that was in alignment with like what I deeply and intuitively feel that I'm supposed to be doing in this exact moment. Like I haven't been doing that. And it was just like this overwhelming sensation of just like truth being revealed and it becoming extremely clear what wasn't working in my life and what I have to move away from. And, what was so wild about this moment was that, as I was sitting in the closet, I was debating with myself, like, do I upload episode 10 now while the tornado is like coming towards me? Or do I wait until the tornado has passed and I know I'm safe before I upload episode 10? And what is fascinating about that is, I kid you not, the thoughts going through my brain were, do I want it to end on episode 9, where I'm talking about how I made a massive change in my life, to my lifestyle by removing all the food, all the foods that were making me feel so sick from my diet and doing the thing and changing the things that felt impossible to change? Do I want my story to end on that? Or do I want my story to end on episode 10, which is how there's one change that I never made? And I was just facing this like crazy, crazy dilemma. In a way, it was a dilemma, but also it was like, holy shit, like this feels so real to me. And if I even like take a step back, episode 10, like when I was going into the week that the tornado hit, right? I was trying to figure out what podcast episode to put out. And, I was trying to figure out what episode 10 was going to be. And, I kept glossing over this whole need for me to make a big change in my career. I kept glossing over it. Really, I wanted episode 10 to be a very glossy version of what episode 10 ended up being. But what made me not put that glossy version out is this intuitive knowing, this very calm voice within myself that said, no, what's gonna be episode 10 is something you've already recorded. You actually recorded that in January 11th, 111. For anyone who's into angel numbers, I certainly am. I've been seeing 999 a lot, which is endings and completions. So I'm like getting this intuitive nudge, like episode 10 has to be the Are You Okay episode. It has to be about how my friend has been having interventions with me about the changes that I need to make in my career, and I just haven't made those changes yet. And so, I was following that intuitive guidance in the days leading up to the tornado hitting. So the fact that I was following, like, I kid you not, every single podcast episode that I have put out in this world, in Secret Garden, has been based on an intuitive, like, what feels right to me, to my soul, and my body. Like, it's all intuitive based. And what I find so fascinating is that, when we set out on a giant road, on a very open road, for example, like with this podcast and being a weekly ongoing show, I've set out, I'm walking down this path. It's an open road. I don't necessarily know what sort of path is going to appear ahead. What I do know is that I can keep walking. And what I do know is that I can slowly lay the pavement of what the steps ahead are. And I know that the steps, the upcoming steps are going to reveal themselves each week. So, I think what's so fascinating about when you start a project like this and when you're consistently pouring energy into it, and you're relying on the fact that whatever you need to talk about is going to reveal itself. Like when I'm planning out episodes, I'm like, okay, what feels really loud to me this week? Also, like, what's the story that I myself need to hear? What's the story that I need to hear myself say out loud? And then also, as I think about editing, what's the story that I need to listen to over and over and over again in the editing process in order for me to subconsciously work out what I need to change in my life? Or like, this is all a growth journey for me too, right? And so what's fascinating about going down a road like this is like, I truly believe that the timing of everything is perfect. Like everything happens at the right time for the right reasons. It's all divine timing, right? And so, as I was sitting in the closet and as I was having these just like insane realizations and like connecting the dots of things, and I'm just like, holy shit, I am sitting in this closet. A tornado is coming towards me, and I'm having to decide with this podcast whether or not I want my story to end on a giant change I made in my life and it was a triumph, basically, or does my story end on literally the question of are you okay is in the title, and also it's about the change that I haven't actually made in my life yet. And so that was just, it's one of those things where I will never forget this 10 to 15 minutes and truly, so just to continue on with the story of like what happened. So the 10 to 15 minutes passed, and the tornado warning had stopped. I was able to stop shaking. I was able to sort of, like, also this whole time I've been concerned about my power going out because in the past couple weeks my power has gone out 2 different times due to high winds, due to, debris in the area or some other shit. So I was like for sure, I'm thinking like as I'm sitting in my closet, I'm like, for sure the power is going to go out. Like if it went out those two other times and then tonight we're dealing with 80-mile-per-hour winds, like there's no way in hell it's not going out. And so I'm just like staring up at the lights, like, are you going to stay? And the lights flickered a couple times, but like ultimately the power ended up staying on, which I was so thankful for because, that just brought an additional sense of safety, because at that time, the fear was still coursing through my veins, even though the threat was gone. And to be honest, like, it's now what, four days after the tornado hit, maybe 5 days. I still feel like I'm coming off of the fear. It's like a fear hangover, and I've been having to work on regulating my nervous system, in the past 4 or 5 days because it was just so much fear in a super short amount of time. And so the tornado warning ended, and I was able to get on to our local news channel and like start watching the news and figuring out like, okay, what's the path of the tornado? What happened? Like, and I started seeing footage of like the actual tornado down the street from me. And it's just, it's difficult, right? Because you like want to know what happened, but also then you have these images in your head of like what actually happened. And that almost, it's just like the going back and like almost trying to reconcile the fear that you felt, but it's almost generating more fear. And so that was just sort of like what I was dealing with on Wednesday night. But as I was in the 10 to 15 minutes of just like, this is never going to end. Like, I don't know if I can get through this 10 to 15 minutes. Like, am I going to be okay? I started visualizing myself as at the center of this energetic bubble, that the bubble started like with me at the center and then it expanded outward. And I just envisioned this like extremely strong, almost basically an igloo looking thing around me, this super protective bubble, like keeping me safe. And then I envisioned that same bubble around my family and friends and keeping them safe. And, I think that was really helpful in that period of time when it's like, I don't know if this is going to end. Like, I don't know what's going to happen in this 10 to 15 minutes. And so that helped me at least focus on my breath and, just really almost like feel powerful in a time that I felt so powerless, and a time when I felt like although I was in a safe spot, in a safe place, I didn't know if it was safe enough. And so, there was just a lot of feelings and emotions just like coming to the surface. But the overwhelming thing was that truth was just being revealed and clarity was being revealed. And it was like this has never been more clear to me. Like I can't, it's never been more clear. And, as the storm passed, as I started watching the news and understanding like what had happened, like I'm texting in my group chat, like, is everyone okay? And, people are popping in here and there to say, yeah, we're okay. And, maybe power's out here and there. And like, my best friend like wasn't responding in the group chat. And so I checked her location and like her phone was still giving signal. And so I'm just like, okay, she's safe. She's there. But, come to find out like a couple days later, the tornado actually went through her neighborhood. And so, it's just been several days of just like learning what really happened on top of just feeling the fear of that 10 to 15 minutes just in my closet and like not knowing what's happening. And, as I've gotten just like tremendous, tremendous clarity from that. I mean, I've talked about before on the show about how, I'm sometimes it takes me hitting a rock bottom before I can really start to make a change. I think it's episode 9, I talk about my food, changing my diet and my lifestyle, because I found out I had all these food sensitivities, and any food that I was eating was making me feel so sick. And I remember reaching that rock bottom moment of like sitting in a chair after a Thanksgiving meal and being like, holy shit, I feel like I'm so sick right now, and I can't live like this anymore. That's one way it has shown up for me. But also, like, if you've been around here since the beginning, first of all, I love you so much and thank you. But like in episode 2, I talk about my acne journey and how like the rock bottom moment of that really got me to find a cure for my acne and like make a lasting change. The rock bottom moment of that was the girl sitting behind me at a Purdue versus Michigan football game and screaming like, Purdue fan with acne, get out of my face. Like, it was that sort of like public shaming commentary that was so, it was like a dagger to my heart. It was like so emotionally disturbing. And it was something that I never wanted to ever have to deal with again. And, it's interesting because I think about this tornado and I'm trying to figure out like, okay, well, what is the universe trying to tell me, right? Because this is really my first experience with a tornado coming this close to me. A tornado has never come this close. It was a mile away from me. I'm asking myself, like, what is the meaning of this for me? It's going to mean something different for everyone who was impacted. And I'm not saying that anyone did anything to deserve this. No, absolutely not. But I do think that whatever messages are coming up for us or whatever beliefs are coming forward, whatever thoughts we're having in our mind that have come forward as we deal with certain tragedies and certain traumatic events, like I think there's an incredible amount of clarity and insight we can gain from that. So when I think about like why of any point in time in my life, why is this particular time in my life the time when the tornado's hitting? And what is it trying to tell me? Like, what is this tornado coming? What's the significance of that in my life? And, I think it's the fact that 10 to 15 minutes in the, like, taking shelter in the closet, I have my pillows around me, my blankets over my head because I'm freaking terrified. I think what the universe is trying to tell me with this tornado coming, I am playing tremendously small by not putting myself out there. And, I think about as I've been practicing manifestation with To Be Magnetic, and as I've really been, for the past 3 years, I have documented every single thing in my life because what I'm trying to do is understand the patterning of my life. And what I mean by that is like, if I do X, then Y happens. If something shows up in my life and I react in this way or in this other way, then XYZ will result. I'm trying to figure out the if this, then that scenario with every single thing in my life, because what that does and what that's allowing me to do is figure out where I'm playing small, where I have low self-worth, and where I need to raise my self-worth in order to be in alignment with everything that I've ever wanted in my life. I think generally what I'm about to say is true for everyone, although like each of us have a different flavor of this, right? So I think as a general statement, there's certain areas of our life that are connected. So this tornado is directly telling me that I need to put myself out there, specifically on social media. And, I've been feeling so frozen in that, so frozen in that. I can't even begin to describe like how frozen I felt. In my mind, for me, in my patterning, as I think about everything that's has happened and where I want to go in my life, this tornado was specifically about me trying to get me to put myself out in the world. What this is directly related to, like if I look at the patterning of this, and I've literally written this out like side by side, is this area of my life. So like showing up on social media, this area of my life is exactly related to the same energetics, the same patterning of what was happening with my acne journey, where I was, I have been trying so long to like find a solution and find a cure. And I've been going down all these paths, trying to find these different treatment protocols that like would work, and nothing was working for me. I was spending all this money on expensive luxury skincare products that were all they were doing were clogging my pores even more. And I wasn't stopping to look myself in the mirror and be like, look, these products aren't doing anything for me, And as I'm like taking all this action, there's also these like subconscious blocks that are in my way of like, why does it make complete sense that my skin isn't ever clear? Why do I always have a face full of acne? Like, what's the limiting belief behind that? Because I'm trying all these things and I can't seem to find the treatment protocol that's going to work for me, right? That's the same thing that's happening on social media for me, in that, for the past over probably year and a half or over a year of me posting on social media, like I'm trying all these things. And, I go through lull periods of just like not having any inspiration. And the same thing was happening in my acne journey. Like I went through periods of just like, yeah, I'm still using these skincare products because I don't have a better solution. Or it's like I went through phases in my skincare journey of just like not even wanting to think about the fact that I have acne, because I'm like, it's this big problem. I know I need to solve it, but I have no idea where to start. The same thing is happening with social media for me. I'm taking all this action, I'm doing all these things, I'm going through these phases of, not taking any action because I'm just like, fuck it, I don't even know like where to begin, right? And then we get to this giant wake-up call and this giant it's like an experience that you can never look past. So with acne journey, it's the gal publicly shaming me, sitting behind me at the football games, saying, Purdue fan with acne, get out of my face. That was so emotionally disturbing that I was like, oh, I'm not paying attention to anything else in my life. The only thing I'm focusing on is this very, very front and center problem that my face is covered in acne and I need clear skin now. It's the same energetic and the same exact experience when it comes to this tornado hitting and with me putting myself out on social media. Because, the way it's the same is the fact that the fear of it all and the 10 to 15 minutes I spent sheltering in my closet and like knowing that a tornado is coming towards me, but not knowing if it's going to hit, and, having all of these near-death thoughts come up. And the first thing that comes up is like, I wish I would have put myself out there more. These thoughts and these feelings are so emotionally disturbing and like emotionally, like I'm never going to be able to forget about those. Like these are the things that I'm thinking about every second of the day now. And it's the same energy where it's like, I'm so disturbed by the fact that I'm even like putting myself in a position to where like if I'm truly near death, and if I'm like facing this like extremely, extremely scary experience. And I'm like wishing that I would have put myself out there more. Like I that's so deeply disturbing to me that like I didn't go for it and that I didn't go full throttle, press my foot fully on the gas. And like it's one of those things where it's like, it's almost like, is there a level beyond like this thing is going to eat me alive? It's like it's the thing that now is going to move me. It's the fire under my ass. It's the motivation. It's the same thing as in the acne journey. It's like when that girl like publicly shamed me at the football game for having acne. I woke up the next few days just crying. I woke up crying. I was crying in my sleep and woke up still crying. It's like that sort of like deeply disturbing moment that can spark radical change for me. And so that's precisely the moment I'm in right now. And, you know, you're probably wondering like, well, why are you talking about this now? The change hasn't happened yet. And, you know, I myself went back and forth on that too. And funny enough, like yesterday I recorded a version of this message, but it was more from the perspective of like, I'm thinking like a couple months ahead and I'm like, oh, you know, once I've made the change, I'm going to package this all together. And this, you know, the tornado story is going to be the first half. And then what actually happened is going to be the second half. And it's going to be like a before and after. And it's like, okay, sure. But, you know, when I started this podcast and as I've been going through this podcast, I'm like, the most important thing for me is to remain committed to talking about the things that are deeply on my mind and like what's front and center for me and how can I bring that truth to the podcast, because that's Secret Garden after all, right? Like, you know, if we take it fully back to the concept, I am Secret Garden. The concept stems from me. And as part of that, I think what I'm deeply interested in doing and what I want to push myself to do is constantly show up with the realest thing that I could say in any given week. And for me, this experience with a tornado is the realest thing I could say this week. And, you know, that's why I'm sharing it today. And, you know, I also want to share it because it's like, I know that you're probably sitting there thinking about a certain change that you need to make in your life. Like, and you can't figure out how to get there. Like, or maybe you're taking action towards that change, but isn't actually happening. And you're like, I'm seeking to believe that it's possible for myself and I'm taking the action, but like nothing's happening. I fully relate. And that's why I want to bring you along with me on this journey. And, you know, I want to invite you to join with me on this journey. And, you know, I need you to know that I'm doing this with the tools of To Be Magnetic. And, you know, I'm a member of their Pathway membership, and all of their tools are helping me figure out and get to the bottom of why I cannot put myself out there on social media. And it's not just that, right? It's like their tools are helping me get to the bottom of why I can't make the changes I want to make in my life. For me, in this particular area of my life, in most areas actually, it starts with reprogramming my subconscious. And for you, it's probably going to be the same too, because if you're like, I could see that it's possible for myself, or I'm taking action and like nothing is changing, or nothing's like coming in the way I want it to. There's subconscious limiting beliefs that are in the way. And, you know, that is absolutely what's happening with me. And I would imagine it's happening for you too. And so I want to invite you to like also use these tools alongside me. And so if this is at all interesting to you And this is, if you want these tools and if you want full access to these tools to help like literally rewire your subconscious so you can get every single thing you want in your life, I have a discount code for you. It's for 15% off your membership and it's in the show notes. I just can't recommend this enough. Like, just so you know, I'm not a member of the To Be Magnetic team. I am just a very, very passionate member about this. I started doing TBM like probably 4 years ago. And it's changed my life so much. But like in these moments where I am face to face with a massive change, I absolutely have to lean on these tools. And I want to make sure that you have the exact same tools that I have access to as well. So I invite you to check it out. But like, let's say you don't want to do that and you're just here. Like I also just want to share my journey as openly as I possibly can with you so that you can get inspiration or maybe like connect some dots in your own life. In the past few days, as I've been like taking time to regulate my nervous system and try to like process the fear and let my body know that we're safe now, I started writing out the journal prompt for myself was, why do I think this is never going to happen? Why do I think I can't put myself out there on social media and have it be a success? Like why do I think that's never going to happen? And so I literally on Friday night, I was like writing down. I kept writing until I ran out of thoughts. And it was like a couple pages worth of stuff of just, it's because of this and this and this and this and this. And, as I saw that written out on paper, I'm like, oh, that's so interesting. And like some of this stuff, I'm writing out answers to that initial question of like, why do I think this is never going to happen? This is helping me connect the dots back to certain things from childhood or certain experiences or certain things that I picked up that I have not thought about since it happened. And, those are the beliefs from like long, long ago are what are directing my reality today. And that's part of the reason why I'm like, I feel so frozen. I can't like move forward. What's going on? Like, so it's just been a massive, and I think back to, if we go back to, episode 2 with my acne journey, and I think about, okay, the days after I get publicly shamed for having acne in person, what did I do? It was this type of stop everything, get to the root of why this is happening. Why do I not believe I can ever have clear skin? Why do I not believe that? Why do I not believe I can ever have clear skin? And just writing it out, doing subconscious reprogramming, doing the deep imaginings through To Be Magnetic. I'm like, get me to the root of why I can't have clear skin. I finally got to the root of it, of just feeling like I'm unlovable. And, through that and doing the deep imaginings and the subconscious reprogramming work with To Be Magnetic, I was able to heal that belief. And I felt it was like this overwhelming sensation of just like release within my body, peace, healing. It was definitely a turning point. And then a couple weeks later, I end up finding the acne treatment that absolutely cleared my skin and changed my life. And so if I'm connecting the dots here on the patterning of it all, I am at the part where I'm digging deep into my subconscious, going deep into myself, because again, like I'm moving from these thoughts of just being so emotionally disturbed by the fact that I am not pursuing what I'm supposed to be pursuing in this lifetime. I want to bring you along with me as much as I possibly can. And, I'm not saying this is going to be an immediate thing, but like I'm certainly just know that I'm moving in the direction. This is the only thing I could think about right now. And, it's one of those things where everything else goes silent. and I'm just focusing on this. And so, I can make a commitment to you that I'm going to be sharing as much as I possibly can, because I know that you're sitting there and you're probably like, fuck, I know there's a change that I need to make and I'm having such a difficult time doing it. I'm right there with you. My thing that I need to step through is putting myself out into the world. And for me, that feels like social media. And, that's even crazy, right? Like, I work in social media, basically. Like, I'm mostly overseeing like paid advertising on social media, but also like I'm in meetings where I'm like reviewing influencer strategies. I'm, you know, helping make sure that the influencer content aligns with the brand voice and the brand vision and the goal of the campaign. I'm like talking to all the social media platforms a couple times a week. I'm like setting up accounts. I'm setting up brand accounts. I'm getting accounts verified with a blue check mark. I'm so deep in this industry. And so it's not the fact, the fact that I can't put myself out there isn't because I don't know how to. It's also not because I don't know the industry. I deeply know the industry. I am so close to this stuff. But, I think when it's something that you're doing for yourself, it's so different. At least for me, it feels different. And I think what's making it hard and what's making me freeze is the fact that I have all these subconscious limiting beliefs. And it's probably not even a lot. I think there's just one. There's one root of it all, and there's like a spider web off of that base root. And so what I'm focused on is getting to the absolute root of that. If I can heal the root of it, then I can also heal like all the things that spider web off of that. So I invite you to join me on this wild ride that we're about to go on. Like, I deeply feel like I'm now on the hunt. And it's the same exact feeling that I felt when I was like, oh, I'm finding a cure to clear my skin. It's a non-negotiable. I'm absolutely in that state of mind right now. And so I hope you join me on the journey, and just know that you can absolutely make a change. Like, we can all make the change that we really want to make in our life. And, I'm committed to that. So thank you so much for joining. I'll see you next week. Bye.